So do you want to hear a funny story? I already filmed this reading wrap up. I'm having candy now because I realized my microphone was not on, so we're filming it again. So this one is a little shorter than my usually are. It's because I don't have the energy to film this entire thing. Again, it's so annoying. Now I'm like, is the microphone on? I think it's on. Super annoying, but welcome to my reading wrap up of all the books that I read in August. This is going to be 8 different books that I read in August, plus the last book that I didn't review in my last reading wrap up because I did pre-film that a little bit. So it's going to be the last book from July as well. So it's all in all, it's 9 different books, and I am including that 9th book in the statistics that I'm doing as well because I didn't include it last month. So that's what we're doing. So I read 9 different books. I read 3,627 pages and I gave an average rating of 4, which is pretty high. I had a good reading month. There was a couple of like half duds, but overall I had good books. 6 of the books were on my TBR, books that I said I was going to read. 3 of them was just mood reads, and I had 7 physical books, and then 2 of them I read on my Kindle via my Kindle Unlimited. Again, I do have a Kindle Unlimited, and I do try to read a couple, especially when I'm on like flights and stuff. I mean, the Kindle Unlimited is literally like unmatched. It's the absolute perfect travel buddy. It is what I always bring. So my ratings were, I gave 3 books a 5-star. I gave 4 books a 4-star. Like I said, it was a really good reading month. 1 book a 3-star and 1 book a 2-star. I didn't give any books a 1-star, but there's one book that quite honestly, I hated the messaging and the pacing in that book so much that in a way it kind of deserves a 1-star, but in between those 2 things, it was kind of interesting. So I gave it a 2-star. Maybe that was kind. I don't know. The genres that I read were my favorite genres, which is 4 fantasy books. I read 1 fairy tale retelling. I read 1 contemporary romance and 3 cowboy romances. The reason why I split the contemporary romance and the cowboy romances is because I tend to read a lot of cowboy romances, and I kind of want to just like show that when I'm doing these videos. And honestly, I have had, like I said, a really good reading month. I thought I was going to read more books than this, but the last book that I read, which I did give a 5-star though, it did take quite a bit longer than I thought it was going to be. So let's start with the book that I actually read that is my last book of July, but I did pre-film that video a little bit because I was traveling, so I had to pre-film. And that is actually 2 Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. This is the 2nd book in the Shepherd King duology. I won't be able to tell you what the 2nd book is about because I don't want to spoil what happens in the 1st book, but both of these books, both of the books in the duology, I gave a 5-star. So this is a 5-star duology according to me. This is a very moody, it says it is a romantasy, but it is very heavy on the fantasy and not that heavy on, and it's not even high fantasy. It's still very much fantasy, but it's not like high fantasy like Tolkien or Brandon Sanderson or Robin Hobb or anything like that, but it is an incredible moody story. I love the magic system in this one. The main character in the 1st book, her name is Elspeth, and she has magic within her. And people that have magic within them, they're being hunted down by the king and the kingdom and basically unalived. So she's been hiding her entire life because the only way you're allowed to use magic is through the Providence cards, and not having magic within you, you're only able to use them within these magic cards. It's like a tarot deck. This land is cursed. There's a mist hanging over the lands, and she basically, through a series of unfortunate events, joins in with a group of people trying to break the curse, lift the mist, and get rid of the king. A lot of things happen. Her magic is basically her having like a monster inside of her. She doesn't 100% know what her magic does. And it is a really, again, interesting, moody. I love the characters. I love the plot. I love the pacing of this book. It is just a very good read. And if you love a moody read for fall, you're going to love this duology. The 1st book ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger. The 2nd one basically picks up where the 1st one ended. I'm not going to be able to tell you again what happens in it. The 2nd book is a quicker pacing, which I really do enjoy. I didn't dislike the pacing in the 1st book, but this one definitely has a quicker pacing. It also has more perspectives, which is something that I love when fantasy books does. And it also has one of the best redemption arcs I've seen in a book in a really long time, and it's not obvious. This author is really mastering the showing, not telling, because you don't even it's so gradient, it's so smooth, it's so subtle. You don't even notice the moment when they go from hating this character to trusting this character. And it is so smooth, and eventually you're just like, oh, I guess he's on our side now. And it's so smooth, it's so gradient, and I really, really enjoyed that with the book. I thought that was really masterful, like, writing, and I love the plot of the book. Again, I gave it a 5-star. I really did enjoy this duology. I think it is absolutely brilliant. Then let's talk about the fairy tale retelling, because this is the one that I gave a 2-star. I got this book as a gift from a friend. She loved this book as a kid. This is a young adult book, and honestly, I think the pacing, if the pacing in this one is good, this has the pacing of like an unhurried snail. It is so slow, and it is slow at a pace where you're just like, if nothing happens, I'm gonna fall asleep. This is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but you know where she meets the Beast? Here. The last half, if even that, of the book, the first half is just her and her family moving from the city, losing their fortune, coming out to the forest, and eventually, again, around half of the book, she meets the Beast. And it just makes the first half of the book, again, incredibly boring. Like, so do not care about you and your sisters. And it is just, I don't care. I don't care about you. I don't care about your sisters. I don't care about your life. I don't care about any of this. It's just incredibly boring. Eventually, she meets the Beast, and that's where the book picks up. And then it becomes a little bit interesting. But again, it's not enough to get this epic love story going. And it just becomes a little bit like unbelievable. And she is her nickname is Beauty, even though she's seen to be the ugly sibling. And then at the end, there is this like, all of a sudden, her boring hair color is a pretty hair color, and her boring eye color is a pretty hair color, and she is prettier. And it's like, this message is just like, oh, now she's conventionally pretty, the end. And it's just like, is that the message we're giving to young girls? Again, this is very, and like late 90s, early 2000s coded, but I'm just like, that's a horrible message to give to people reading this book. So I really don't know what the message was in that one. I saw that it was giving, those high school movies when the girl was just like dorky and ugly, and then she took off her glasses and poofed her hair, and all of a sudden she's a 10. That's the energy this book is giving. I did not like this. I'm sorry. I thought it was, first it was boring, and then it was kind of interesting, and then the message at the end just left me very confused. Very confused about all of that. So I read 2 books on Kindle Unlimited, and that is that I read Wyatt and Sawyer, which are 2 more books after Cash. What is her name, the author? Let me double check what her name is. So these are the second and the third book in Lucky Rivers Ranch. And I read the first book last month and I gave it a 4-star. I really enjoyed it. Jessica Peterson is the author. So Wyatt is basically, he is like the Casanova, the heartthrob. He is one of the brothers, the Rivers brothers. And his best friend is a cowgirl, but she left, became a veterinarian, and then she came back to spend one last, I think it's summer or winter maybe, before she moves to New York for this very important veterinarian job. And they've been best friends their entire life. He has been in love with her forever. That is known from the beginning of the book. But he never let her know because 1, he doesn't want to ruin their friendship, and 2, he doesn't think he deserves her, and 3, he doesn't want to hold her back. He knows she is meant for more. A bigger life, a bigger job, a bigger future. So he never lets her know, and she is kind of awkward after having some really bad dating experiences. So she asks her best friend Wyatt, can you pretend to date me and just teach me? How am I supposed to be a good date? And he, against better judgment, accepts, and it's a fake dating cowboy romance. And I loved it. The tension, the miscommunication, him just absolutely longing for her without wanting to tell her. Ugh, loved everything about it. I loved the characters, and I loved the banter. I loved the friendship. I loved all of it. The second one, or the third one, which was Sawyer, it is 2 single parents meeting. Actually, the book begins with them meeting in Austin, actually, which is where I live. The series is set in Hill Country, Texas, and they have a one-night stand. Unfortunately, the one-night stand is like a third of the book. somewhere between 25% to a third of the book. It's that scene is too long. It's taking too much of the book. And even though, yes, it is fully explaining the great chemistry they're having and why they would be perfect for each other, and also fully explaining why she doesn't want to leave her number or have like him in his life, because she just sneaks out and leaves his life, and at some time later they end up seeing each other again in the hill country where she has gotten a job at a neighbor ranch, and they meet again and they're both single parents. And again, the reason why I gave this one a 3-star is because they are focusing so much on them being single parents. The kids, the mundane of it all, the everyday, I don't have kids. I don't want kids. I don't want to spend that much of my time reading about kids. I'm sorry. If you have kids, if you think that sounds interesting, go right ahead. It's not my journey. It's not what I want to read about. But also, I do think that first scene took up way too much of the book. So this one, again, I gave it a 3-star because the parts that were good were really good. But it wasn't... he's a little bit of also of a golden retriever, and she's not buying it because she's had a lot of bad experiences with guys. But there was too much kids and too much that first scene. It is what it is. I also did read Heartless by Elsie Silver. This is the brother of the guy in the first book. Again, this is Chestnut Springs, right? Chestnut Springs. And he is the older brother, and he has a kid. Again, I don't know why I'm reading about so many parents when I, again, don't even love kids that much. And he's realizing he needs a nanny for the summer. His dad is getting to be too old. The kid is getting to be too much. And he's like, I need to hire someone. And he ends up hiring the best friend of his brother's girlfriend. And again, she is an adult, but she is, I think it's 13 years younger than him. And she's a wild child. She's kind of crazy. And he's like, this is never gonna work. But his kid loves her. It's insta love. They're getting along so well. And this book is basically, I mean, about their chemistry, of course, but also about him realizing that sometimes age is just a number when we are consenting adults, and that maybe his kid needs a little bit of wildness in his life. Maybe the kid needs a little bit of a different perspective as well. So I gave this one a 4-star. I really did enjoy it. If he didn't go on and on about the age difference so much, it might have been a 5-star, but I'm like, my dude, we've all moved past this. We need you to move past this as well. Okay? The last contemporary romance that I read was The Right Move by Liz Tomforde. This is the second part of the Windy City series, and I am enthralled by this series. This is about Ryan is the captain of the Devils Chicago's NBA team, and it is Indy who is the best friend of his sister. She has been left. She found her fiance cheating on her. She no longer has a place to live, and Ryan very reluctantly rents out his guest bedroom to Indy because his sister is like, listen, gotta do me a solid. Can't just leave her hanging. And he is just become the captain of the team, and the owner or the manager, one of his bosses, is saying you gotta be a little bit more of a family man. You gotta be a little bit more of like part of the team. So he blurbs out, well, I actually have a girlfriend. So he kind of enrolls Indy to be his fake girlfriend to seem better to his boss. And it's fake dating, but it is so soulful. Like, Liz Tomforde really has a way of writing emotions. Like, there's something about how she, on paper, is able to convince you that these people have these feelings and are falling in love with each other, and all the obstacles that they're going through, they're never too much. And it is just very heartfelt and just very gripping. And I thoroughly enjoy her way of writing feelings. I feel like Liz Tomforde and Paisley Hope also has this way of just like grabbing onto your heart and just making you believe in what she's writing. So I really, really enjoyed this series. I gave this one a 5-star because the character growth and the way that they're just standing up for each other. Absolutely adored it. Absolutely adored it. So let's get into the other fantasies that I read. Remember in my TBR from last month when I said that I was either gonna read Assistant to the Villain or The Serpent and the Wolf, and I said both of these were 5-star predictions, but I picked The Serpent and the Wolf, but that doesn't matter because I read them both. So I read Assistant by the Villain, and this is Hannah Nicole Maehrer, and I think it's Maehrer. And this is basically this girl who is left unemployed. She literally meets the guy who is called the villain. Nobody knows his real name, and he is running a full-on enterprise villain empire in the forest in his castle, and he employs her as his assistant. This is almost like a workplace romance, but like in a fantasy castle. It is written in a very humoristic way. Think the way that like Star Wars or Indiana Jones feels like action comedy. This feels like fantasy comedy, romantasy comedy. It is very slow burn. Don't expect anything, and you won't be disappointed because they're literally nothing. But I really did enjoy the plot. I really did enjoy the newness of the premise of this book. What I really didn't like is that the main female character is written in a way that I don't love women being. Kind of like, she's smart and brave, but she's also kind of clueless and kind of clumsy, and she needs to be saved a lot. And it's not my favorite type of way of writing a woman, especially the clumsy part. I don't find the comedic relief in that. That's not my perfect way. And she's not stupid, but she's kind of clueless. And I'm also like, it's just small things. I understand the choices that were made, but it doesn't mean that I must love them. So that's why I gave it a 4-star. So The Serpent and the Wolf, again, both of these I thought was going to be 5-star predictions, but I also gave a 4-star to The Serpent and the Wolf. This is Rebecca Robinson's. It says a master of the spicy slow burn. This I gave a 4. Okay. This book starts in probably the best way a fantasy book has ever started. The first literally, oh my god, let me read you. Here I am reading this book to you. This is how it starts. Chapter 1. With rope tied under one pillow and a tiny blade hidden beneath another, Vasilisa Kosar scurries around a dimly lit room in the high temple of Maehrer. She would not be here when the sun came up. The people dancing in the downstairs hall of this enormous temple were the perfect distraction, with their aggravatingly loud music and communal dances absorbed in themselves and their honeyed wine without a care for the bride or their groom. She being the bride, waiting for the groom in her bedroom, preparing to assault him and escape. And that's what happens in the first chapter. She has been married away to, like, let's for the sake of the argument call him like a general of a country that her brother, who is the king, has married her away to in hopes for peace, and she's like not on board. She's not on board. So after the ceremony, she's supposed to be preparing for the wedding bed, but she's preparing for her escape. And that's how the first chapter goes. She basically threatens her now husband, says, listen, adios, I am out of here. She escapes through the window, and that's how the book starts. Very intriguing. Very good start of a book. Very interesting start of a book. There is magic and witches and political intrigue. The political intrigue in this book is fascinating and very well written and very well thought through. Sometimes when people say, oh, there's political intrigue, it's very flat and one-dimensional, and I'm like, what is this? This one is good. There are a couple of plot twists in this one. This is a forced marriage that turns into like a reluctant alliance, and they both have a common enemy, which is her brother, who is literally the worst. But there's a lot of hidden things in here. The reason why this is a 4-star is not because of the plot, not because of the political intrigue, not because of the magic system, not because of the characters. All of those are great. It's because, honestly, this book could have needed 50 more pages to sell me on the feelings. It never really convinced me about any of the feelings that the author is trying to portray. And I feel like in this one, there was a little bit too much of that inner monologue versus actually showing and convincing me. And I do think that that's, for me, where the book turned into a 4-star and not a 5-star. It didn't give me that 5-star feel. You didn't sell me on the emotions. But again, the plot, the magic system, all of that, absolutely beautiful. I will definitely read part 2 because this is a beautiful start of something that could be a great series. Because again, very convincing. The political intrigue is beautiful. Absolutely loved it. The action scenes are great. It's just I need a little bit more of like, make me believe what you're writing. But I did really enjoy it. The last book that took me way too long to read, but it's probably because I haven't been reading high fantasy in a real long time, and that is Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. This is the first book in the, what is this actually called? This one is called the Mistborn Saga, the original trilogy. This is the first one in Mistborn. The second one is The Well of Ascension. I really love this book. I have never read anything Brandon Sanderson before. I have read high fantasy before, and I will say, okay, let me rephrase. I came into the romantic fantasy from fantasy. I have been reading fantasy, and I enjoyed fantasy, and I was like, oh, how interesting for the love interest to take a bigger part in the plot. I do enjoy that. A lot of people that come into romantasy via contemporary romance or historical romance, they don't always love the romantasy books that are a little bit more heavy on the plotting, the scheming, the fantasy of it all. I even heard someone that her favorite genre is contemporary romance. She had read a romantasy that I love, and she said she didn't love it because she wanted to read about the love. She didn't want it to feel like they were on a quest. But that is what fantasy is. You are on a quest, and that's what this is. You are on this most epic quest, and it is beautiful. The best part about this book is the characters. The characters are written so human. They're imperfect, but still good people. You know, good people are imperfect, and he has written that in a beautiful way. Sometimes they're brash and proud. They make stupid, impulsive decisions. They're angry. They're mad. But they're not bad people. I feel like he's written the characters absolutely spectacular. I also will say, I love that there is multiple points of view, and the seamlessness of the multiple point of views is absolutely spectacular. The magic system, ugh, so good. And the magic system is so smart. You can tell he spent a lot of time thinking about this magic system, because you're not overpowered. You're not invincible. You're not indestructible. There are limits to the magic. Some are better, some are worse, but even the best ones are not indestructible. And that's what I really love about this magic system, because sometimes romantasy authors have a tendency of making magic so overpowered that, like, what is even the point about having a book? Not this. Really beautifully written. You can tell he spent a lot of time thinking about this, even to the point that at the end, he almost lost me in his like explanation about how things were like connected, because eventually I was like, sure, if you say so. And I don't think that I'm like stupid or not understanding things, but like it turned really advanced. You could tell he spent a lot of time thinking about this. This one is a trilogy, but it doesn't end on a cliffhanger, which means that you could technically read this one, feel pretty okay with taking a break or not reading the other ones if you don't want to, because again, it doesn't end on a super obvious cliffhanger. It's clear that there's going to be more books, but it doesn't end in a way where you're like, well, now I have to read the second one. So I did really enjoy that as well. Like I said, I gave this a 5-star. I do love a good fantasy book, and sometimes I see the book talk girlies that are saying that they love reading about, like, you know, the dark romantasy, and they say they're gonna read the Farseer series by Robin Hobb, and then they say that books like Shield of Sparrows is too much fantasy and not enough love, and I'm like, you are gonna hate the Farseers then, because that is high fantasy. It is a great series. That is a 6-star, unlimited. I love the series. If you love high fantasy, definitely check out the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. It's absolutely amazing. But if you love reading about love and you love fluffy romantasy, not too world building-y, I don't think that one will be for you. I hope you liked this. I really did not enjoy refilming this again, and I'm sorry if it ended up being a little bit shorter, because I really didn't want to talk about these again, but here we are. here we are. It is what it is. What am I gonna say? If you like these kind of videos, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know which books you've been loving. If you're wondering about any of these, you can always check them out in the description box down below. I will also leave some links there to my Goodreads and to my Instagram. I always upload there on the go, like doing a little bit of like a live updating if you want to keep up with what I'm reading as I'm reading it. But yeah, I hope you're having a great day and I'll see you soon again.